The tide broke slowly on that grey morning, carrying with it the salty, humid smell of a Rio de Janeiro that never sleeps and never forgives. On the edge of Barra da Tijuca, amidst the noise of the tent ropes and the muffled whisper of the first bathers, Lieutenant Colonel Eduardo Bastos, the elite skull, ran. It wasn't just a holiday race. It was the daily ritual of a man forged in combat, trained to survive any hell, but who now, for the first time in years, allowed himself to let his guard down. He didn't know it, but as his sneakers sank into the wet sand, 5 kilometers away at the top of the Coronado complex, the war against him took on a new form. In the alleys, suffocated by concrete and smoke, the faction Red Commander, the same woman who months before tried to blow up her son in a brutal attack, was now plotting something even more audacious. And if you want to follow this story as it really happened, straight from the source, without filter, without romanticism, sign up here at Conflict Route. Here, each episode is a step deeper into the terrain where peace is negotiated in blood. This time, the target was Bastos himself. At 6:47 a.m., inside an old combi, parked in a blind spot on Lucio Costa Avenue, 3 men wearing fake Comlerb uniforms were communicating via short-range radio. In the rearview mirror, one of them was staring at the athletic figure of the commander, who was approaching slowly. Confirmed. He has no security, just the watch on his arm. And the house key in his shorts pocket, whispered what appeared to be the leader, known only as Shadow, a former police officer expelled from the force, and now the faction's right-hand man. The plan was clear: capture Bastos silently, without shooting, without fanfare, trading your life for the withdrawal of military police units installed in the heart of the favela, bases that hindered the millionaire flow of arms and cocaine trafficking. In the faction's high command, the reasoning was simple. Without Bastos, the state negotiates. With Bastos in hand, the favela becomes theirs again. The kidnapping was quick. Bastos, tired from the race, slowed down when 2 motorcycles appeared from behind an abandoned kiosk. Within seconds, a spray of ether covered his face. When he tried to react, a well-aimed punch behind the ear knocked him out. At 7 a.m., a black SUV with bulletproof windows swallowed the commander's body and disappeared through the narrow streets of the West Zone. The barracks of Special Operations Battalion, BOPE, the radio exploded with static and codes. The battalion commander, the man who never failed, the skull respected even by criminals, had disappeared. At 8:15 a.m., the BOPE operations room, located in Villa Militar, became a hornet's nest. The dark walls, covered in heat maps, wiretaps and dossiers of drug trafficking leaders, vibrated with tension. Major Rafael Cruz, Bastos's right-hand man, and also a skull, took command of the crisis. On the table, an anonymous message sent via an encrypted application: "You know what we want. 48 hours. Otherwise, the commander dies. Get out of the favela, or we'll spill blood, skull." Time was starting to run out. While the troops mobilized the raid and sweep teams, in the neighboring room, the intelligence section, he stitched together information that the press could only dream of. Phones were tapped, satellites mapped escape routes, and plea bargains were bought at a high price. There was one detail that changed everything. Bastos was not just a commander. He was an expert in captivity survival with counter-terrorism training from the US Marines. In other words, while the kidnappers believed they were in control of the situation, they had a caged lion in their hands. On the evening of the first day, a video was sent to the operating room. Bastos, handcuffed and showing signs of light torture, stared at the camera. He blinked 3 times, slowly. Code learned in war training. Confirmed location: Sector 3 of the Coronado favela. The game changed. Equipped with HK-G36, AR-10 rifles and ceramic vests, the BOPE operators drew up the invasion plan. 2 groups. Alpha Team, silent infiltration through the sewage tunnel that connected the community to the Faria Timbo River. Bravo team, frontal distraction with armored vehicles and launching of smoke grenades. The objective was only one: rescue Bastos alive before the deadline. At 3:40 a.m. the following morning, the favela was sleeping under a veil of false tranquility when the first explosion of distraction shook the southern part of the hill. The Alpha operators, covered in mud up to their waists, emerged from the alleys with their breathing cadenced. Inside, the tension could be cut with a knife. Footsteps echoing, radios crackling, eyes watching every window. But something didn't add up. The information seemed too good. Bastos, always meticulous, left a final warning recorded in Morse code, stamped with his foot. Trap. Now, it was declared war. In seconds, the faction mobilized criminals armed with AK-47 rifles and 50 machine guns. The hill was transformed into a maze of crossfire. Adrenaline took over every skull in the troop. No one backs down. They didn't just fight for a commander, they fought for own of yours. Time was running out, 47 hours and 12 minutes. The Alpha troop, led by Major Cruz, advanced through the alleys of the Coroado favela with their radios crackling with interference noises. The intelligence had been clear, Sector 3, but the reality on the street was different. The geography of the community changed every week. Walls torn down, alleys boarded up, new routes carved out by clandestine bulldozers. It was a living maze, designed to confuse even the best. "We're in the wrong place. He's not here," Cruz growled, adjusting the grip of his rifle. Meanwhile, from the top of a nearby slab, a faction scout transmitted by radio. "They are lost. Order the rearguard to close." The trap closed faster than the troops expected. Inside an abandoned warehouse, miles from where the intelligence had pointed, Bastos, still handcuffed to a metal beam, listened to the distant cracks of gunfire outside. His body ached, his dislocated shoulder throbbed, but his mind, the mind of a skull, remained sharp. Two kidnappers stood guard. One of them nervously fiddled with his cell phone, while the other checked the magazine in his rifle. The commander looked at the floor. A loose nail. A second was all it took. He flexed his foot, pulled the nail out with the lace of his sneaker, and with a millimeter movement began to release the handcuff lock. 3 minutes later, the metal fell to the ground with a dull thud. The nearest guard turned around, but it was too late. Bastos advanced like a predator, elbow to the jaw, stomp on the knee, twist of the wrist. The rifle fell. The second criminal tried to raise his weapon, but the commander spun his body around, disarmed him, and threw him against the wall with a brutal arm lock. The crack of the broken bone echoed through the warehouse. Outside, the sounds of 50-caliber rifles and grenades intensified. Hell had awakened. While the Alpha troop found itself cornered and Bravo maintained an intense exchange of gunfire at the main access, the radio at the BOPE Operations Center exploded with a new code, Hawk 01. It was the password to activate the extreme feature. From the barracks of Marines, and 15 kilometers they gave, Guarani, state-of-the-art armored vehicle, was already on its way. Equipped with machine gun .50 remotely operated modular armor against RPG and thermal sensors, the Guarani tore through the asphalt like a steel monster. Inside, a mixed team of Marines and Skulls reviewed the plan. Enter breakthrough rescue. At 4:02 a.m., the traffickers heard the low roar of the engine that made the ground vibrate. "What the hell is that?" shouted one of the faction's criminals as he saw the monstrous silhouette emerge on the horizon. The Guarani broke through the concrete barricade with a roar, scattering shrapnel and clearing a path like a moving wall. In the shed, Bastos, now with his rifle recovered, silently killed the last kidnappers. His breathing was rhythmic, his gaze cold, no hesitation. Through the gaps in the windows, he saw the orange glow of the incendiary grenades thrown by the Guarani and the advance of the elite troops. He knew it was now or never. He drew his weapon and advanced. Through the side door, eliminating 2 criminals from the faction who are guarding the perimeter. On the other side, the Alpha team, reoriented by the updated intelligence, converged on the warehouse. "Commander!" Major Cruz shouted as he spotted the familiar silhouette in the smoke. Bastos did not respond. He just gave a thumbs up and continued moving forward, shoulder to shoulder with the troops coming to rescue him. The Guarani parked in front of the warehouse. The rear hatch opened and the extraction team descended, forming a protective corridor. Bastos ran with the troops, climbed into the armored vehicle, and there, under the still dark sky and the acidic smell of gunpowder, he gazed at the horizon. He was back. At 4:28 a.m., the Guarani slowly reversed, its engine roaring heavily. Infrared lights illuminated the way back through the alleys of the Coroado favela, while the BOPE operators, in cover formation, escorted the armored vehicle like a wall of flesh and steel. Commander Bastos, sitting on the side seat inside the vehicle, kept his eyes fixed on the built-in tactical monitor. Every beat of the troops, every flank movement, he followed with a mind as sharp as a razor. Outside, chaos reigned. The faction Red Commander, upon realizing that the greatest asset had slipped through his fingers, went mad. In the alleys, pirate radios blasted incoherent orders. Close the exit from Estrada Vela. Build a barricade on the way up to Tirol. Get the RPG up, damn it. Don't let those sons of bitches get out. Panicked and disorganized, the drug traffickers tried at any cost to block the retreat. An improvised .50 was mounted on a roof, firing frantic bursts at the armored vehicle. The bullets ricocheted as if they were slingshots against a tank. The Guarani responded with surgical precision. The turret rotated 35 degrees and the remote .50 Spitfire. Flames licked the slab and the enemy firing point was reduced to rubble in seconds. On the Alpha troop radio, Cruz's voice was dry. Clean stick, moving forward. The retreat was tactical and without casualties. At 5:06 a.m., the armored vehicle crossed the perimeter of the favela, followed by BOPE vehicles. In the distance, the sun was beginning to rise, dyeing the sky orange and blood. It didn't take long for the news to explode. At 7:15 a.m., images of the Guarani crossing the favela, captured by residents and TV helicopters, flooded screens across the country. BOPE commander rescued from captivity after historic operation, the banner said to the reports. No newspaper, the reporter opened the newscast with a serious expression. After almost 48 hours missing, Lieutenant Colonel Eduardo Bastos was rescued from captivity inside the Coroado complex in Rio de Janeiro, in one of the largest joint operations between BOPE and the Marines ever recorded. The commander is doing well and is now back in command of the troops. Social media exploded. Videos of the troops removing the commander went viral with hashtags like Operation Skull, Mission Accomplished, and Terse. The commander is back. But in the underworld, the damage was different. In the high command of the Red Commander faction, the humiliation was unbearable. Losing the commander alive, seeing the favela invaded by a military armored vehicle, and on top of that having dozens of drug traffickers killed or arrested, shook the drug trafficking hierarchy. The wiretaps captured tense conversations. We've lost morale. Bastos is back. The police are going to come down hard now. And they were right. At the BOPE headquarters, after a cold shower and his shoulder replacement, Bastos gathered his officers in a closed room. On the whiteboard, he wrote a single sentence in black pen: Operation Retaliation, Phase 2. Then he turned to the men. They thought we were going to back down. Now they will feel the weight of the skull. The rescue of Commander Eduardo Bastos was not just a tactical victory. It was an unequivocal demonstration that even in the face of ambushes, attacks or kidnappings, the public security elite does not bend the knee. The Comandante Rubro faction has suffered a strategic and moral blow. Its credibility with other criminal organizations has been eroded, its criminals demoralized, its leaders now marked. And at BOPE, between the cold walls of the military village, the troops knew what would come next. The counterattack would be relentless. Knife in the skull, victory over death. And now I want to hear from you, the operator who followed this mission to the end. What would you have done in Commander Bastos' place? Do you think the faction still has the strength to react after this coup? What should be the next step for Operation Retaliation? Leave your vision of war in the comments. Like the video if this story held your attention from beginning to end, because it shows that the troops here are worth it. And if you're not part of our squad yet, subscribe to the Rota Day Conflito channel now, because the next mission is already underway and you'll want to be prepared. See you in the next episode. Skull does not back down. Skull responds.